When you really look at history, you start to see this crazy pattern. A great empire rises up. It seems totally invincible, and then, damn, it gets toppled by some group of outsiders that nobody saw coming. We've seen it happen again and again. But what if it's not just a coincidence? What if there's a predictable code that explains the rise and fall of pretty much every great power?
Right, that's the big mystery we're going to dig into. How do these scrappy so-called barbarians on the fringes, with way fewer resources, somehow manage to beat the biggest, richest, most organized empires in the world? Well, the answer is way more logical and, honestly, way more fascinating than you'd think.
So, here's how we're going to crack this code. First, we'll lay out the basic pattern for why empires are destined to fall. Then, we'll get into the 3 secret rules of power that really drive everything. We'll see how that creates this loop of stagnation and change. And then, the best part, we'll watch the whole pattern play out with one of the greatest stories in history, the rise of ancient Greece and its shocking conquest by Alexander the Great.
Okay, let's jump in. The first big idea here is that history isn't just a random series of events. Nope. There's a powerful logic to it, a cycle that, once you see it, you'll start seeing it everywhere.
Here's the core concept. A powerful empire getting taken down by an upstart from the outside isn't a one-off thing. It's basically the same story playing out over and over, just with different characters and settings. And it's all driven by some very predictable forces.
So, what are these forces? Well, you can boil them down to 3 basic principles of geopolitics. Think of them as the hidden rules of the game, the stuff that explains why nations and empires act the way they do.
Okay, let's break these down. First up, elite overproduction. The biggest conflicts aren't actually the poor rising up against the rich, it's conflict inside the elite class. You have the super rich at the top, and then this growing group of ambitious people right below them who feel like their path to more power is totally blocked. Second, there's really no loyalty among elites. Power is the only thing that matters. They'll betray anyone, their country, their family, their allies, to get more of it. It's a real-life Game of Thrones for sure. And third, and this is a big one, wars between major powers often aren't about total destruction. They're about keeping things the way they are, maintaining the equilibrium. The wars become these big, elaborate rituals to keep everyone busy, not to actually conquer each other.
So, when you put those 3 rules together, what do you get? You get this totally predictable cycle. The big, stable empire at the center starts to get slow and stagnant, while all this new energy and innovation starts building up on the edges, out in the borderlands.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the contrast here. The empire, it has mass, organization, deep pockets. It's a giant. But all that stability makes it lazy, bureaucratic, and frankly, arrogant. The borderland, though, it has energy, it's open to new ideas, and its people are united. They've had it tough, so they're willing to learn and adapt. They end up soaking up all the empire's best ideas and attracting its most talented people who are looking for a real opportunity.
And you want to see a perfect example of this? Just look at ancient China. The big, powerful states in the middle were stuck in their equilibrium, fighting these pointless ritual wars. Meanwhile, the poor, barbarian state of Qin on the edge, they were getting hired as mercenaries, learning all the newest military tricks, and attracting all the smart, ambitious people from the old empires. And then, they just rolled over everybody.
Okay, so with that theory in our back pocket, let's watch this exact same pattern unfold in the West. This time our empire is the mighty Persian Empire, and the scrappy outsiders are a bunch of city-states on its border called the Greeks.
I mean, listen to this. This quote just perfectly captures that borderland spirit. The Persian Empire, the biggest superpower on the planet, offers the Athenians a deal. They basically say, look, we're infinite, you're tiny, just give up and it'll be easier for you. And the Athenians came back with this. It's like they're saying, we know you're bigger, but we'll fight for our freedom until the sun falls out of the sky. That's the kind of energy an old, comfortable empire just doesn't understand.
And against all odds, the Greeks actually won. But then, a funny thing happens, right? The victors become the new establishment. They become the new core. And they fall right into their own state of, you guessed it, equilibrium. And this is the crucial twist. Athens and Sparta become the 2 new superpowers, and they immediately start fighting each other. But here's the thing, they weren't trying to destroy one another. Athens could have sparked a massive slave revolt to wipe Sparta off the map, but they didn't. Sparta could have done the same to Athens, but they wouldn't. Why not? Because it would have destroyed the whole social order. It would have shattered their precious equilibrium. So they got stuck fighting to keep things the same, and that made them predictable, stagnant, and very, very vulnerable.
And right on cue, just as the Greek world got comfortable and complacent, a new borderland power was watching from the sidelines, learning everything they were doing, and getting very, very strong. That power was Macedonia. Macedonia fit the profile perfectly. The Greeks thought they were just poor, backward hillbillies. But because they were poor, the Greeks hired them as soldiers, which let them learn every single military innovation. And because they were a rising power, they became a magnet for every ambitious Greek engineer, general, and thinker who was fed up with the stagnant system back home. Then, under a genius king named Philip II, they put all those pieces together.
The result? I mean, look at this timeline. It's just insanely fast. In just a couple of years, Philip takes over all of Greece. He gets assassinated, and his kid, Alexander, takes this incredible war machine and, in less than 10 years, conquers the entire Persian Empire, the same superpower the Greeks barely survived against. It's unbelievable.
And this, right here, this is the ultimate clash of mindsets. The Persian king, Darius, he's still planned by the old rules of equilibrium. He offers Alexander half his empire, a mountain of gold. He assumes that'll be enough to just, calm things down. But Alexander wasn't playing that game. He thought he was a literal god, and his goal was to conquer the entire world. That kind of crazy, limitless ambition was just unthinkable to the comfortable, stagnant Persian elite.
So what was the end result of this massive, world-shattering conquest? Well, Alexander didn't just swap one empire for another. He completely smashed the old world and fused all the pieces into something brand new.
The new era that followed is called the Hellenistic Age. And it was this incredible period of cultural mixing, this syncretism, where you get Greek philosophy, Persian bureaucracy, and Jewish theology all mashed together. This cultural explosion literally created the foundation for Western civilization and, eventually, for Christianity itself. But of course, you knew this was coming, right? The pattern is relentless. Alexander's generals split up his empire, and before you know it, they're the new stagnant establishment. They fall into their own equilibrium. And right on schedule, a new, energetic, and united borderland power started rising up in the West, ready to do the whole thing all over again. That power was Rome.
And that brings it all back to us, to right now. This cycle of a stable, maybe even arrogant, core being challenged by a hungry, innovative group on the periphery, it has shaped thousands of years of human history. So, my final question for you is, when you look at the world today, where do you see this unstoppable pattern happening all over again?